The bright lights of the studio flickered, casting a sheen on the sleek black furniture and the polished stage. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, their eyes glued to the set as the opening music played. This was a rare event, a primetime interview with the Trump family. Donald Trump, his wife Melania, and their 18-year-old son Barron were seated together for one of the most watched talk shows in America. The host, Emma Reynolds, a well-known liberal journalist with a sharp wit, greeted the audience with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She was famous for challenging controversial guests, and the Trumps were no exception. As the camera zoomed in, her gaze shifted from Donald to Barron, her expression knowing and slightly mischievous. "Good evening," Emma began, her voice laced with irony. "Tonight we have the first family, Mr. Donald Trump, Mrs. Melania Trump, and their son Barron. Welcome to the show. Now, we all know your father's presidency stirred quite a bit of debate, to put it mildly. Some say it was a disaster. Others say it was a necessary wake-up call. So, let's dive in." The audience chuckled nervously. Donald Trump, unfazed, cracked a smile and leaned back in his chair. "Well, that's what fake news does best," he replied, dismissively waving a hand. Emma wasn't ready to let the conversation slide that easily. She leaned forward, her sharp eyes locking onto Barron, who sat tall beside his parents. "Barron," she said, her tone shifting to something more pointed, "you've grown up in the spotlight, watching your father face constant criticism. Tell me, honestly, how does it feel to be the son of the most divisive president in American history?" The room seemed to hold its breath. Even Melania, ever the composed figure, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Donald paused for a moment, his usual confidence flickering for just an instant. Barron, however, remained perfectly still, his deep blue eyes unwavering as they met Emma's. A soft, almost imperceptible sigh escaped Barron's lips before he spoke, his voice calm and measured. "You know, it's funny how people love to talk about my father like he's just a name, a headline, or a target. But to me, he's more than that. He's the man who taught me to stand tall, no matter how many people try to tear me down. He's the man who, despite everything, never stops fighting for what he believes in." A hush fell over the crowd. Even Emma was caught off guard, her usual quick-wittedness faltering. Barron continued, his voice steady, each word deliberate. "People say he's divisive, but what I see is a man who never backed down when others wanted him to. A man who worked for America, even when half the country wanted him gone. And you know what? That kind of strength? It's rare. Whether people like it or not, history will remember him, and so will I." There was a long pause, the studio's usual noise now replaced by stunned silence. Emma blinked, clearly unprepared for this response. Her carefully prepared follow-up questions hung in the air, unfinished. The camera shifted to show the audience's reaction. Some faces were wide-eyed, others nodded slowly, as if re-evaluating their perceptions. The sound of Barron's words hung in the air, forcing even the staunchest critics to reconsider their position. The young man wasn't just speaking about his father. He was speaking with the kind of conviction and clarity that few in the political sphere had ever displayed. Emma, recovering slightly, tried to regain control of the conversation. "That's a very passionate response, Barron, but don't you think leadership should be about unity rather than division?" Barron didn't flinch. His gaze didn't waver from Emma's. "Absolutely," he replied calmly. "But real unity isn't pretending everyone agrees. It's having the courage to stand for what you believe in, even when it's unpopular. My father didn't divide America. He exposed divisions that were already there. Some people didn't like that. A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Some nodded, others seemed taken aback. Barron's response, free of anger and brimming with clarity, seemed to carry weight in the room. There were no grandiose gestures, no shouting, just a steady, unflinching truth. Emma, her usual control slipping, adjusted the papers on her desk, perhaps trying to regain her composure. She then leaned back, her posture more relaxed now, though the smile she forced onto her face didn't quite hide her surprise. "Well," she said, her voice softer now, "I can see that you've given this a lot of thought." Barron smiled faintly, but there was no arrogance in his expression, just quiet confidence. "I've had to. People think they know who I am just because of my last name, but I'm not just Donald Trump's son. I'm my own person, and I refuse to let the media define me before they even listen to what I have to say." Donald Trump let out a proud chuckle from beside Barron. Even Melania's face softened with emotion. There was no doubt Barron's words had made an impact. The studio, once filled with tension, now seemed to exhale in a collective breath. As the cameras shifted to capture the family, Emma, realizing she had been bested not by insults, but by grace, composure, and clarity, nodded slowly. "Well, Barron, thank you for sharing your perspective." The show moved to a commercial break, but the conversation had already been won. The media buzzed. Social media exploded with clips of Barron's response, which quickly went viral. Headlines poured in. Barron Trump silences TV host with powerful words. A new Trump steps into the spotlight. The young man who had spent years out of the public eye, overshadowed by the immense legacy of his father, had just carved out a space for himself in the most unexpected way. What we learned today from Barron Trump's powerful response is a reminder of the importance of staying true to oneself, regardless of external pressures or labels. In a world often driven by division and noise, Barron's calm and articulate answer stands as a beacon of clarity and confidence. His words remind us that true strength doesn't lie in shouting the loudest or trying to win approval from everyone around us. Instead, it comes from knowing who we are and being unwavering in our convictions, even when they are unpopular or controversial. Barron's ability to hold his ground with respect and dignity in the face of a pointed and challenging question serves as a lesson in leadership. Real leadership isn't about pleasing the masses or conforming to expectations. It's about being unapologetically yourself and standing firm in your beliefs, no matter the opposition. The story also reminds us that labels, whether placed by others or by society, should never define us. Just because we are associated with something or someone doesn't mean it should overshadow our individual identity and personal journey. Barron Trump's response today teaches us that grace under pressure, confidence, and integrity are timeless qualities that transcend political debates or public opinion. It's a message that speaks not just to those in the spotlight, but to anyone facing challenges in defining their path and making their voice heard in a world that often seeks to silence them. If you enjoyed the story and found it meaningful, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts and the lessons you've learned in the comments below. Your insights could inspire someone else.